Today, we're actually joined by Rik Schnabel, who is a multiple best-selling author, a master NLP trainer, and Brain the Untrainer, with more than 24 years of experience and over 39,000 practice hours, helping people pretty much create real change in their life. Now, in today's conversation, we're going to be exploring Rik's personal journey, a little bit about how to overcome fear in your life and moving forward using courage, and how he moved through his own adversity and self-doubt while building his own business. So I really want to find out from Rik around the role of NLP, because I think a lot of people are still don't fully understand NLP. And we'll also look at what it really means to reconnect with who you truly are beneath fear, conditioning, and those old patterns.
If you're actively seeking ways to build your mental toughness, navigate life transitions with grace, or simply find inspiration to keep moving forward, then you're in the right place. Welcome to the Art of Beautiful Thinking podcast.
Welcome to the Art of Beautiful Thinking. I'm Yvette, and my co-host Kat is actually away today, but we're joined here by Rik. So welcome, Rik.
Hey, thank you, and great to reconnect. It's been quite a number of years.
It has. It's been a
Yeah.
while. The days that we were doing NLP training were pretty phenomenal days for me. I got quite a lot out of that, and that definitely set me on a new path in my life. So thank you. Much
You're
appreciated.
welcome.
So, Rik, for those people who are actually meeting you for the first time, how would you best describe what drew you to NLP in the first place?
I think my journey with NLP actually started when I was in my very, very young years of life, when I was kind of 6, 7 years old, actually. And, you know, like most kids, you're at school, it's a whole new place. You got people confronting you, and there was a lot of alpha in the schoolyard. And there were a lot of bullies, and I just had a neon sign above my head that basically said, "Hey, come and punch me." You know, and so there was all that sort of nonsense going on, and I found a retreat after school, because the bullies used to basically hang around, gang up, and wait for you to walk home, and then pick on you. You know, like, I hate to say it, but one of my earliest skills that I learnt was how to fight. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not a fighter. I don't like fighting. I don't see its purpose. But I went to the library, and the library was where bullies didn't hang out. And so it was quiet, it was air conditioned, and I love the smell of books. And I spent a lot of time in the kids area, you know, reading all these kids' books. And if you go there every single night after school, you start running out of books. So I went around the corner, and just around the corner, there was this small section of books, and it was the psychology section.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And even though I was, you know, very, very young, I learnt to read. I loved reading. I loved the day I got my very first book and all of that excitement. And so I could read. Whether I could completely comprehend the concepts was another thing. But I read a book called Dibs in Search of Self.
Oh.
And it was a journey with a psychologist working with a young child who these days we could actually say they were ADHD or something along that particular line. And I started seeing myself in this book. And the journey was this kid who was really progressing through being asked really good questions, and, you know, having the opportunity to take time, take stock, reflect on self.
Yeah. Yep.
And I used to think that, as you naturally do, if kids are picking on you, the first thing that most of us do is we personalize everything.
Yes.
So we say, it's all about me. So I've got to be bad. I've got to be, there's something wrong with me. So I just kept going. And then I read I'm Okay, You're Okay, and all these other books. And it really opened some doors for me. I began to start thinking that there was hope, there was possibility. But in truth, I had a big poverty mentality, and where I needed to go further into my life would have been, you know, to study psychology.
Yeah.
Instead, I studied psychology, went into advertising, because my big issue was money. My parents weren't that well off, and as a result of that, I see all these kids at school going to the canteen spending money, and I never used to get any money.
Yeah.
And I wanted money, and I wanted to work out, why wasn't I getting money, and why is everyone else getting money?
So that
And
wordiness aspect coming into it?
well, there's
Well,
definitely, there were
yeah,
definitely, I had a very low self-esteem, very
yeah,
low self-esteem. I realized that for the first 40 years of my life, I actually believed I was depressed. I was anxious. People really don't believe me these days, but it was absolutely true. I was telling a story on another podcast a little while back as to how anxious I was. There was a period of time when I sold my advertising agency, and you got to think, you go, wait a minute. There's this guy who's grown this advertising agency, taken it from number 354 to number 12. He's got to be confident.
yeah,
No, I
yeah.
wasn't. I was really, really anxious for a lot of my life, and I started working for News Limited. And I remember a particular event. It was a Christmas event. I just joined the company, and I was on the head table with the MD and the general manager and the CFO and all these people. And I was so intimidated that here I am as an adult, and I'm in my early 30s, and I just wanted to cry. I just wanted to cry. I was so intimidated. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to hold conversation. I really didn't know how to interact. I'm sure the people on the table couldn't see what was going on in me because I was really good at masking.
I was
You
about to
know,
say that we tend to mask pretty well when we
oh,
have that sort of,
totally.
yeah,
Yeah,
internal dialogue. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. But that's kind of what led me down the path. But it was actually a journalist that came into my office one day and threw an envelope on my desk and said, "That's you." And I went, "What?" And she said, "I've just done this story on a whole new industry that's coming into Australia called life coaching." And she said, "You are a natural."
Wow.
So we used to have code in the office, and code in the office was, people used to come into my office and they'd go, "Michael told me that I've got to buy you a cup of coffee." And I'd go, "Okay, let's go." And then I didn't have any coaching skills. I didn't have any tools. I used to just ask questions and find out where they were going. And it used to take me hours to really help a person. And finally, I opened that envelope, and it was a video and brochures, and it was all about life coaching. And I put the video in, and I went, "Oh my God, this is me.
Yeah.
I so want to do this." And when I first did the course, I was like a naughty child. I did it with my best friend, and we were having so much fun that they had to separate us. Like it was amazing. All of a sudden, I realized there's a language, there are systems, structures, tools, and it gave me language for something that I've been doing for years. And so I just took to it like a duck to water. I loved it. And here I am 25 years later, still doing it. But the thing was that for me personally, all of a sudden, doors were opening up. Like
Wow.
I was working in advertising when I was learning sorry, not advertising. I was working in sales, selling
Yep.
advertising. And I was learning NLP, and I was applying everything I was learning in my sales. And I was the worst salesperson that they'd ever had in the company.
Really?
Like, I was really bad. I was going to lose my job.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Well, to give you an idea how bad I was, because some people say, "Oh, you couldn't have been that bad." Well, here's how bad. In 8 months, I had brought in, and this wasn't my commission, this was total. I brought in $3,500
Over 8 months.
over 8 months.
Okay.
So I was really bad.
Yeah.
And then I started learning NLP, and all of a sudden these dots began to join, and I realized I was speaking wrongly on the telephone. I wasn't in rapport. I wasn't speaking their language. I was putting so much anxiety into my calls. I had an expectation that I wasn't even going to achieve anything. So there were so many fundamental things that I didn't even know I was doing. But as I learned NLP, I began to learn all the wrong things that I was doing.
Yeah.
But I went from the worst salesperson in the history of this company to the best. Like
Bloody
my
hell.
annual income became my monthly income.
Wow. And
You
what
know,
was the period of time that you did that?
it happened in 3 months. Like 3 months after I finished my NLP training,
Yep.
I went from worst to best salesperson, and like it was nuts. It was insane. Like I would look at a spreadsheet in front of me and I'd be going, "Oh my God, I'm going to earn 60 grand next month." And then I'd have a look, and then further down the year, as more and more sales came through, I'd be going, "I'm going to earn 85 grand next month." And I was earning more than John Howard,
Yep.
the prime
Yeah,
minister at
the
the
Prime
time,
Minister. Yep.
and things just really opened up for me. And so I just continued my NLP training, to eventually become a trainer of NLP. And then I discovered the European standard, and I went, I want that. I want to go all the way to there. So now I'm classified as a master trainer of
Yep.
NLP. And so I'm very kinesthetic. So I love the application.
Yeah.
I don't just get into theory. I like to apply it and see the difference. But it really opened up my income, and as a result, I've always loved the battler. I've always loved those people who are going, "I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it." And I've learned how not to rescue, but I would definitely rescue. And I'd be going, "Come on, I can help you. What you need to do is you need to think like this." And I would start seeing, like, a lot of my early testimonials were kind of, they sounded like a financial list of testimonials, like people going, "I earned an extra 100 grand," and people going, "I doubled my income." And one lady who I've been coaching for a while, she said, "Right, I want to earn $3 million in a year." And even I was sitting back going, "Whoa, that's a lot of money. How are you going to get there?" And I've been coaching her for a while. And in it was later last year, she said, "Guess what, Rick?" And I said, "What?" She
You did it.
said, "I've hit the 3 million mark." She said,
Wow.
"I'm making $3 million this year." And so, the thing that I guess I really got from a lot of this is that, and we were talking about this before we started
Yeah.
today, the real critical entry point is that your fear will often rise.
Mm.
When you're about to do something that you really want to do, but you're a little bit scared of it, or maybe a lot scared of it, that, it's kind of like you come up against it and then you walk away, come up against it,
Yeah.
walk away, come up against it, walk away. But it's that moment where you go, effort, I'm going through that door. And you go through that door, and that's when the magic happens.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that because I've seen it with other people as well. But when there's something that's really, we really want to do something, like we have a desire to do something, and it's usually fear that holds us back from
Yeah.
actually doing it. Like even if I think of this podcast, for instance, okay, when I kicked off this podcast, probably about 4 months prior to kicking it off, I kept having this little inner voice going, start a podcast, start a podcast. And I was going, no, I really don't like seeing myself on video. I don't even like having photos taken of me, right?
Oh,
It's like,
wow.
I just don't like it. And then you've also got that little monkey mind that says, what will people think of you? What if you screw up? And then, and that's just creating a story around it. But I had this fear about putting myself out there. And then I just kind of went, no, this is bigger than you. What you're trying to do is get a message out there. And I think a lot of the times when we make the fear about us, we get caught up in it and it pulls us
Yeah.
back. But when we make it, when we're able to work through it and realize that we're here to provide a service for other people, and that if we don't step out, we're actually doing a disservice by not getting our message out there. And that was a big thing for me when I heard that. I kind of went, oh my gosh, because for me, the message that I have that I want to share with people is far more important than the fear holding me back.
Yeah.
And that was a powerful thing. Once I did that and I stepped through it, I went, okay, I'm going to do the podcast. And I just did it. And I remember the first one that I did, I was so nervous, even though I've got no audience in front of me. I'm just talking to a camera with my co-host. And that probably made it a little bit easier because we were able to have conversation. 9 months on, if you said to me, oh, like, but today, Yvette, we're doing a podcast. Okay, great. No problems. I don't even think about it.
Yeah.
It's just become second nature. But initially, I was constantly getting nervous and procrastinating on it and trying to come up with reasons why not to do it. But once you step into it, as you said, magic happens and doors start to open for you.
Yeah.
And my husband even said to me, Yvette, you know, because you through the business, I'll think to myself, gosh, I'm feel like we're still struggling. I feel like we're still trying to get ahead. And he said, have a look at how far you've actually come in the last 18 months. And you sit back and you go, oh, wow, yeah, we have actually come quite a far distance. So as humans, we can focus a lot
Yeah.
on
It's
what's not
almost
working.
it's almost like if you put your eyes up there, you're always looking up there.
Yeah, yeah.
And, and as a result of that, you actually can't see the distance that you've come.
Ab-
In my life, I've loved hiking, and quite often you'll climb a mountain, and you'll be at the bottom, and you'll look at that mountain, and you'll think, "Wow, that is a big journey." And you just take the first step,
Yeah,
and the second, and the third, and off you go. And before you know it, you're constantly looking up, and then all of a sudden you stop, you turn around, and you have a look how far you've come, and you think, "Wow, isn't
yeah.
that incredible?" And that's literally what it is. But there's a fundamental piece that you talk about with your podcast, for example. And I find that most success is formulaic. You start to understand the building blocks that make
Mm,
people successful. And if you think about it, what the reason that you were able to do the podcast was because your desire was up there, or your purpose was up there, and your fear was down here,
yeah.
or maybe even it was there. But as long as your desire or your purpose is bigger than your fear, you will always keep moving forward.
Mm.
You
So
know,
what would be your recommendation then to people to have their desire beyond their fear? What would be some of the tools or strategies that you would do with that?
well, the first thing that we've got to be able to do, and a lot of people do not do this, and that is you've got to stop. Most of us like to get into that hamster wheel and just keep going. It feels like an
Mm,
illusion of movement, but
mm,
it's not. It's just sitting in the same cycle going over and over and over again, but it does create that illusion of movement. So what we've got to be able to do is stop and go to another level. Move out of that level, out of that dimension, and start to imagine another dimension. And so, actually, a classic example of this, when COVID happened, it was a nutso time. It was a
yeah,
real crazy,
totally.
crazy time, and there were so many people who were coming to me and going, "I'm freaking out." I'm not saying this publicly, but I'm freaking out, and I really need some help. And the thing that I found as a really good formula for this is to ask them questions along the lines of saying, why are you really here? Why are you really here? And they'd say, well, I'm just an accountant, or I'm just running a business, or I'm just this or just that. And they often put that word just in there.
Mm,
And then you say, well, okay, why do you like the accountant, for example? Why do you do accounts? Personally, for me, I find accounts would be boring and I couldn't stay in that career.
yeah.
But they go, yeah, but numbers are great and it's really good when it all balances out and da da da. And what's so important about that? Oh, well, I mean, you can save your client a lot of money, and you go, okay, so when we come back to the point of really finding out our why,
Hmm.
a lot of the time when we're depressed, anxious, sad, traumatized, etc., we become very narcissistic.
Oh, yeah.
Now, a lot of
Focus
people
is on
won't like
us.
to hear that.
Yeah. Well, the focus is all you. It's all you. Yeah.
Exactly. It is
Yeah.
really, really true. So the way to get out of that is to start to focus outward. And the real purpose, I believe, of humanity is we're actually here to know what it is that we really have in our heart, allow ourselves to be it, have the courage to
Hmm.
go, oh, stuff it, I'm going to do it,
Yeah.
and then go ahead and do it, and find yourself in that joy.
Mm.
And when you're in that joy, you'll probably discover that your purpose has got nothing to do with you.
Yeah,
It's got everything to do with who do you serve.
absolutely.
No,
Yeah.
like you're coaching, you know what it's like.
Mm.
You're working with someone, they're going to give you all their problems, all their blocks, all their limits, all the issues, the emotional issues that they're dealing with. And then in your head, you're going, what is it? What's really stopping them? And, you might even go to bed at night and still be going, what's really stopping them? And then all of a sudden that spark, and you go, I've worked it out. I know why they're doing that. And when I reveal it to them, oh my God, there's going to be a shift. Like I've had 4 breakthrough sessions this week where I
Yeah.
had conversations with clients going, right, you've been telling me about this bullshit story
Uh-huh.
for a while.
Yeah.
Are you ready to have a breakthrough today?
Yeah.
And I had 4 of them this week, and it was so cool. Sure, there's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of, oh my God, it feels so terrible, etc. But once that happens, once you get that turnaround where that person goes from here to there,
Mm-hmm.
it is so exciting,
It is.
and you start to, we all fall in love with the breakthrough, the shift, the
Absolutely. Yeah.
change. And so that's why we do what we do. So when you're serving others, what actually happens is you can't help it. There's residual. You get something back. Forget about the money that you paid, because it's not really about that. It's about all of those people that you go, I had a really positive effect on that
Yeah.
person, and
Sorry,
maybe
just to
that's
add
your,
into that too, it's also the effect that they have on you too, because I
yes.
find when you're working with someone and helping them with a breakthrough, there's a message there for you as well.
Oh,
So
yeah.
there's growth on both ends, and that's what I found so powerful with coaching.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
Particularly early on in the coaching period. And,
Yeah.
we've all been through this where a client will come in and say, hey, I've got this issue. And you go, whoa, I've got that issue too. And you don't even realize you've got that issue until, you're coaching them and going,
Yeah.
oh, I'm a bit like that too. And so as a result of that, you find that you go through your things as well. And that's what I love that about the coaching industry, because it's, like there are many, many industries that you can really fake it until you make it. But fake it until you make it is a terrible strategy, because
Oh, totally.
you eventually make it and you go, oh, I'm a faker. I'm a
Yeah, and
fraud.
you're still in that
Exactly.
old mindset of you haven't done any growth.
Yeah,
It's
that's right.
just pretending, wearing another mask ultimately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the whole thing about coaching is that you have to become congruent. You
Mm,
can't help it, because you're writing or podcasting or, blogging or whatever it is, but you're constantly working with people. So you learn so much
they do.
from all of that. And, one thing that I've certainly found is that your passion and your direction changes too.
Yes, absolutely. Do you find because I know you were talking about when you first started as a child and the bullying, etc.,
Yeah.
and those experiences, those lived experiences, and we've spoken a little bit about your family life, etc., as well. And have you found that has been a driver to move you in the direction that you're in, to really understand who you are at the core?
I think I was very, very fortunate, when I'm going to have a religious moment.
Okay.
When I say religious, I'll call it spiritual. But when I was a kid of 4 years old, I saw Jesus Christ on my next door
Ah.
neighbor's roof,
Oh, wow.
and it was an incredible moment for me. It was, now I don't know whether it's Jesus Christ, but it kind
Yeah.
of looked like the typical, he was a little bit darker skinned, he was a little bit different, but I got a sense that I was in the presence of something
Right.
that had a real love,
Yeah.
for humanity, and something that I felt from that point on, that I too had a real love for humanity. Like, I care about the individual, though I care about the collective,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
know, and so whenever I'm writing a book or doing a talk or doing a training or something like that, I'm thinking, if I can put a dent in this world somehow, if I can have an influence in this world for good, then people can get value and benefit. And if someone's happy and someone else is happy and someone else is happy and someone else is happy, or purposeful, or whatever you want to call it, you start to get a whole different vibration, a whole different
Hmm.
level of wow
Yeah.
around that group. And if we look at the world today, I mean, you know, I think we've all worked out that the world is run by a bunch of narcissists
Oh, totally. Yeah.
that have really no care for humanity whatsoever. Which and I wrote an article about it today, which was, I started it by saying, I'm hearing a lot of people are saying, Rick, there's no hope, there's no love, there's no care, there's no kindness. What's the point? And I really wanted to write something to address that, because I said, well, the reason that people have lost those things is because they keep hearing all this narrative. And that narrative keeps people in a fear resonance. And fear basically is a vibration of about 300 hertz. And when we go right down to shame, it's about 25 hertz. So it's a really low vibration. So our job essentially is to raise that vibration in individuals, communities, families, so that you can raise the vibration of the world at large. And the first thing that we've got to do in order to do that is you've got to get people out of their fear narrative.
Yeah.
You've got to get people out of their anger, sadness, blame, guilt, shame, all of those emotions. They're all just fear.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fear
You know,
disguised. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. You know, so that creates an incredible amount of purpose. So
Mm.
I believe that, answering your question fully, if you can get a person to really tap into their purpose so that they really know why they exist, then, oh my God, you have someone that has a rocket on their back. They're ready to totally take off. And that, sure, that can take a while, you know, because you got to pull off the layer of fear, pull off
Yeah.
the layer of anger, pull off the layers of resentment and all those sorts of things. But once that's gone, what happens is you start to get someone who stands up straighter, someone who is on purpose,
Hmm.
and someone who does what they do without being asked.
Yeah. And they're doing it from a place of love as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And I just like to go back a little bit when you were talking about the helping people, unravel their fear and that level of consciousness, and going back to understanding who they really are at the core. And also back to your story about your connection to something that was bigger, and you felt that love, and you felt that I suppose, to a point, that connection to everything, and that we are more than what we are projecting in this lifetime, that
Most
there's way
definitely.
more than this.
Yeah.
And on a conscious level, there's one consciousness across everything. And so if you're actually helping people to unpack that fear and really understand who they are at the core, that's also impacting that conscious field at a higher
Yeah.
level.
Yeah.
And that has a huge effect on humanity and also on this planet. But
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard of the 1,000 monkey experiment. Yeah. So for our
Yeah.
audience, I'll just explain that. There, I think it was in the Pacific Islands, and correct me if I'm wrong
Yeah.
here, Rick, 'cause it's been a long time since I've heard.
Japanese, off the
Yeah,
Japanese
there we go.
coast.
Yeah, and there was some experiments going on watching some monkeys, and there were multiple same breed of monkeys across different islands. And one particular monkey they used to go up and eat, I think it was yam or something like that.
Yeah.
And one monkey decided it was going to start using a tool to dig up the yam and then go to the water and clean that yam. And the other monkeys on the island started watching it, and then they started doing it. And then what ended up happening from a collective perspective is monkeys on the other islands that had no connection with these monkeys automatically started doing it as well. And that shows to me how much of when we do work with some people and we hit a collective number, it automatically has a resonance effect across the entire planet.
Yeah.
And that's with the work that I know that I do, and I suspect you're the same, is that's the real driver, is because you know that you are coming from that place of love and you're really wanting to help people open up their hearts and minds and understand who they are at the core, so they can live a life with purpose, on purpose, outside of fear. And then that also has an impact on the people that they touch in their lives, and so on and so forth. It's a ripple
Exactly.
effect. Yeah.
I mean, you can see it quite practically if you just use your imagination. If we saw every single person on the planet, I mean everybody, every single woman, child, adults, everybody, if they all just saw the rantings and the ramblings of some of our politicians in the media and just went, oh, shut up, and just turned off the TV or stopped looking on the socials and just went, what a load of nonsense. If everybody did that, they would have no power.
Oh, totally.
They would have no power. In fact, they would get very scared. Like, we are mass. There's a lot of us. But if we think about it, sadly, there is a lot more that are fearful, that are very, very worried about the future and all of that, than there are people who go, no, it'll be fine.
Yeah. And that's because of, as you said, what's being pushed out there in social media, in the news. We're constantly surrounded by fear, and that's because it's a really good way to control the masses.
It is.
Keep people low, then you can keep yourself in power. It's a really, really good way of doing that. And that doesn't just happen within politics. It actually happens in the corporate world. It happens in a lot of different places.
Yeah.
And that's part of, that egocentric mindset. That's where that comes from. People would get greedy. They want to hold on to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, many of these leaders are incredibly narcissistic power mongers that have some sort of idea that they're going to be living in paradise and being able to have no laws and do whatever they can do, and including no moral laws either. And so, that's not community.
No, it's not.
That's not healthy, and it's certainly not progressive. My wife is fantastic. She's my best researcher.
Okay.
And I woke up this morning at 6, and she was watching something, and I said, "What are you watching?" And she said, "You've got to hear this." And it was a medium, and he was channeling what is going on in the world, and we're just sitting back going, totally nailed it. Yes, yes. And he was basically saying that, we've just been told a lot of lies. And amazing channel, this guy. And
do you remember who the guy was?
No, but I'll tell you what I will do is I'll find it and I'll email it to you. And then if you want, you can pop it on the description here.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But it's one of those, it was one of those, I think it's one of the best things that I've heard in a long time.
Okay.
But I was saying to Rebecca, we went out and sat near the beach and had a lunch today. And I said, that really set me up for an incredible day. It just had such a good resonance about it. It had a lot of love, a lot of joy, a lot of beautiful energy about it, and it told the truth.
Yeah.
And the thing that I feel is that the truth, as they say, will set you free. But I really truly believe that is the case. Like, when we're really real and we go, hey, look, I'm incredibly anxious. Well, that could be the truth, and it's great, and you can do something now. But, we've been trained, many of us have been trained with stupid strategies like, think about it, suck it up. What is that?
Oh, yeah.
Does that mean I need a straw to get over something, or I need to get good at jumping to get over something? And so the world has gotten very, very scared of emotion. It's basically there.
Authenticity, I think it's scared of.
Yeah, well, it is. It is. Yeah, well, that's certainly another chunk to look at it. But it's because of this fear that people have of emotion that the truth is we're humans. We do feel.
Mm,
But we need to be honest instead of going, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay. We really need to be honest and go, I'm not okay,
absolutely.
and
Mm,
that opens the door for opportunity to be able to help someone to really progress. Because if we're all basically saying, no, 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 I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, no one's getting anywhere because we carry that energy with us through our day, through our lives.
absolutely. I think it begins with self-awareness, doesn't it? To be able to
Yeah.
step back, become aware of where you're at, and understand that you can spiral, you can spiral down, but you have a choice. And if
Yes.
you are able to identify, yeah, okay, I'm feeling a bit anxious today, but I don't want this anxious feeling to actually take over me. So I'm going to sit with it a bit. I'm going to recognize it. And I'm going to see, what do I need to do to change that state? And that could come from anything, from thinking of someone that you love, looking at your pet and patting that. It can come from anything. A manner of reframing can happen in a second.
Yeah.
And that's where our beliefs really play a major role in that, how we think, what we think. There's all of these, what's that saying? What you think about comes about. So if you're constantly focused on the fear and the anxiety and trying to push it back, and we spoke about this earlier on, when you're pushing it back, you're pushing it into your cells as well.
That's right.
And that's where disease comes from. So imagine that you've got all this negative energy and all this negative feeling, and you're bottling it up and you're putting on a mask, and then one day it's going to explode. It's just going to
Absolutely.
explode. But if you are able to unpack that, and as you said, take the layers off, I like to look at it like an onion, that you're peeling back an onion,
Yeah.
and you're going, each layer of the onion until you get to the bulb. And that's what personal growth work is about. It's actually about working on those things and letting that go and recognizing who you really are at the core. And once you do that, you know what you bring to the table. You know your strengths, you know your weaknesses as well, but you also know your value.
Yeah.
And people can't then manipulate you when you know that.
Absolutely. Well, actually, when we were talking earlier, we were talking about this book.
Yes, we
So,
were.
so this, they asked me,
Can't really
Balboa.
see the title very well. Can you read it out?
Well,
Or is it
it
Raw
says,
Courage?
yeah,
Is it
raw
Raw Courage?
courage. But
Yep.
if you can see it, they asked me at Balboa. They said, "Why are you putting a little kitten there? Why are you insisting to put a little kitten? Why can't we have a tiger, or something like
Mm,
that?" I said, "Well, that's not the truth. That's not the truth. Courage requires you to recognize you're a little kitten,
yeah.
and you just got a bigger vision for yourself." And once we recognize that we're just human, so we're going to have feelings, we're going to have emotions, and not try to always put it under cover.
Yeah.
It's to because there's a process that we ended up developing about, I think it was about 8 years ago, and
Hmm.
it's called aspect therapy. And the reason we developed this particular process was because we were working with some clients that we weren't really making progress with. And we thought, what the hell is going on? And we'd used so many techniques and processes with them, but we really didn't get them to where they needed to be.
Right.
So we started to think about this and did a lot of deep dives, a lot of investigation. And we thought, one day it all came together. It's like something that we have learned to do as people, and this happens big time in corporate land. And that is that people put on armor.
Yeah.
They put on the suit, they put on the tie, they put on the look, they drive the car, they have the house, they all of that sort of armor.
Hmm.
And so what happens is every time, like a knight who puts on armor, every time a knight puts on armor, what they're really saying is, I am vulnerable without this.
Hmm.
I am weak without this. So I am weak, but I have armor.
Yeah.
And so we realized that a lot of people were doing exactly that. They were putting on armor and they weren't willing to take that armor off.
Mm,
Because when you take that armor off, you begin to realize that you're actually much stronger than you even think you are. And this really came to be, and I remember it was around 2008. I'd started in 2002. In 2004, I learned NLP and all sorts of things opened up for me. And people used to say, "Oh my God, he's Australia's Tony Robbins. He's going to be huge." Da, 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 da. And I remember my finance guy was going, "Geez, the next thing I'll be ordering for you is your Learjet." And I bought into all of that nonsense.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden started having these very expensive watches, expensive suits, cars, da, 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 da. And a few things went wrong that particular year, that was heading towards the GFC. And I lost an incredible amount of money.
Wow. Yeah.
And I also in my career felt like I was falling.
Oh.
And it was one of the worst things that could have happened to me, but it was actually one of the best, because I found myself getting up on stages and saying, "Guys, I know I don't drive a prestige car. I do not live in a big mansion like you all think I do. And I'm not a billionaire." And the thing that I would say is I'm quite proud to say the car that I bought, I'm going to have for maybe the next 10, 13 years, because it's just going to go in a landfill. And,
Yeah.
and why the hell do we keep doing all this materialism?
Mhm.
So I took a turn at that particular point. And what I was coming to do is I began to realize that the suits, the watches, all of that sort of stuff was my armor,
Yeah.
and I thought, well, I'm not being 100% congruent here.
Mm.
I'm portraying this thing that says that only when you get to my level are you a success.
Yeah.
And you have to have all of these things around you. And
Yeah.
I thought there's some really screwed up messages in all of that. And so I completely did a backflip on that. And like my very first book, which was called Life Beyond Limits, was
Yep.
then republished to become A Richer Way to Think. Although I still love the content in that book, I don't go and promote it big time, because I'm not promoting materialism
Yeah.
anymore. I used to, because, they became some of the trophies that you put on the wall, but I don't believe in that anymore. I want to get into everybody else. I want us all to see ourselves at the same level. I'm no better than anybody else. You're no better than anybody else.
Yeah.
None of us are. We're all people.
Yeah.
And the whole idea of people and community is what we do is we help one another.
Yeah.
And we help the whole community to come up, not this one person to be that person on that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Mm.
It's not sustainable. It
Mm.
really isn't. But of course, we're led to believe that, yes, that's the goal. That's what you need to be. You need to be powerful. You
Yeah.
need to overtake everyone, better than everyone. That's all ego, ego, ego,
It
ego.
is. It's society programming, because
It
that's what
is.
society as a whole believes is successful, is
That's
all that
right.
materialistic stuff. And
Yeah.
success isn't necessarily that. That's an outcome, but it's not necessarily what success really is. And I think that's where people get caught up in. They get caught up in that money mindset. Yeah,
Yeah.
if I'm not in business and I'm not bringing in a shit ton of money, I'm not successful. When
Yeah.
success could be, well, you've actually stepped out and you're speaking your truth and you're helping other people, and that's successful. The money will come, and the money will come for you to be able to get all your needs met. If
Yeah.
you want more money, fair enough. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's understanding, I suppose, where that comes from and what the driver is. And it was sort of like when you were talking about with the putting on their armor. That to me, like when you were saying that, I was thinking they're also getting ready to battle. It's like they're getting
Yes.
ready to battle their day rather than going into their day from a point of pure intention and creating it from that place. So it's very different mindsets. And because we do get caught up in that society programming, we lose ourselves,
Yeah.
which I believe is so important to why it's really important to come back to yourself and understand who you are at the core.
Exactly. It's one of those things that what I've come to realize is a lot of people say, "Hey, that guy's got a big problem."
Mm.
And I go, "No, that guy hasn't got a big problem. That guy has a lot of conditioning, and it's turned into a problem." And the thing that what we have to understand is I came from the advertising industry, so I
Mm.
understand psychology from a marketing perspective as
Yeah.
well. And the thing that we have to understand is that one of the most expensive parts of TV usually is the news
Mhm.
or the major movies. And the thing is, they love the news because, it's very somber, a million
Yeah.
people died, da, 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 and then all of a sudden, oh, what a feeling,
Yeah.
and so what happens is our feelings feel very down when we're watching the news, and then all of a sudden the ad comes on and we all of a sudden feel better, and now we associate feeling better with the brand that just
Yeah.
had the beautiful jingly music, and now our car doesn't look as sparkly as it once did, and now we feel like we want to get another car.
Yeah.
So, it's a little bit like when they put the fins on the Chevrolet, was the very first time they turned cars from function to fashion.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
And as a result, what's happened is so many people are hypnotized into believing that they need more to be more, and that's a
Mm,
message that's
mm.
really been out there for a long, long time. And if we understand conditioning, it's a little bit like the classic movie Jaws. Remember
Yeah. Yeah.
Jaws?
Yep. I certainly do. It
Yeah.
gave me a fear of sharks for the rest of my life.
Well, that was the effect of it. If you think
Yep.
about it, reality is just, it was a movie. It was created by Steven Spielberg. He had a very
Mhm.
low budget, so he
Yep.
couldn't build an entire shark. And so he used the camera a lot to let your imagination do the rest. So very clever producer. But the thing was that, so that was the reality. The conditioning was that we just kept seeing through that movie the dun
Yep. Yep.
dun, those two notes.
Yeah.
Dun. And so the moment we heard that, and particularly when it went dun, 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 we felt the pace, so it was
Yeah.
coming faster and quicker. So it created visuals, feelings, sounds, and it made sense to stay out of the water. And that's perception. So the reality became our conditioning. So our conditioning changed our reality. So that created a new perception. We created an altered reality.
Oh, totally. Well,
So,
it certainly affected me.
well, it was the most influential movie in the world
Wow. There you
on
go.
behavior. Like even in
Yep.
Lake Michigan, which is in the middle of bloody America, people dropped 70%. People who went swimming there dropped by 70%, in the year of Jaws. And and it was a freshwater lake. But people just went water,
Yep.
sharks. And so, sharks were hunted and all of that. But sharks are really important. But I remember I had a deep fear because I had to go into the water to save a friend of mine who
Mhm.
was out with a shark,
Oh,
which
wow. Okay.
which scared
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, of
It
course.
scared me going back in the water with the shark. But it built an incredible fear. Like I used to go surfing and I'd paddle out and go, oh no, the conditions aren't right. I'm going back in,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I would make all these excuses. And I went, no, I really love surfing. I've got to get rid of this fear. So I booked myself in to go free shark diving. So,
Oh, yep, one way to
so
do it, face it.
yeah,
Yep.
so I went in and I started diving with sharks, and my instructor said, every time I do that, there's a shark around. So keep your eyes out. And she welcomed us to the middle of the food chain as we were going to dive. And I remember there was a grey nurse in front of me, and they all did the Rod and Valerie Taylor, slowly, gracefully went down as they let the ballast out of their vests and came down. Mine wasn't working so well. So I'm going, trying to get myself down. And the shark went, oh, shit, man. And it took off. I scared a grey nurse shark, you know. So it shifted my perspective. I began
Yep,
to realize that sharks aren't actually going to eat us the
yeah,
moment we're in proximity,
yep, yep.
So
They're just scared, absolutely.
yeah. So
Yeah.
we've just got so much false conditioning going on, and we've got to be aware. We've got to be aware of that. I've got
Mm,
3 words these days.
okay.
You got to be aware,
Yep,
you got to be awake, and you've got to be able to do what it is you want to do. And if you're not aware, you can't be awake and you can't be able.
Totally true. So what would be your message to people in order to do that? How would they do that?
Well, get honest. Get
Mm,
honest and get courageous. Get in there, work with the coach and go, hey, I'm going to be honest. I am really scared of doing this, but there's another part of me that really wants it.
yeah.
So help me get over that fear, or help me to get rid of that belief, or help me to be able to move through this, to be able to
Mm,
achieve that, because that is more important to me than not doing it.
yeah, and staying in your comfort zone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm,
Absolutely.
that's fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there any other message that you would like to give our audience?
There's one thing, and this
Yeah.
is the basis of my next book. So I'm writing a book at the moment and it's almost done. This book has taken me the longest time to write than any other book. I can typically write a book in 3 months, but this
Oh,
has taken about 5 years, this book. And the book is really a shot across the bow. It's a warning to humanity. And that is that if humanity do not become conscious, this is going to be the last generation of consciousness.
yeah. Okay.
So it's a book called Teen Edge.
Hmm.
I've already had pre-sales of the book, so there's a whole bunch of people that bought it, and every single person that bought it wasn't a teenager.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
They bought it for their
Oh,
teenagers,
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know. So it's for teenagers, and it's really saying, guys, girls, wake up,
Mm,
really wake up, be conscious, limit that phone. Don't put it up in front of your face when you're walking down city streets. See,
yeah,
really see, hear,
exactly.
feel, be able to get yourself to wake up your consciousness, because a lot of people aren't even at a higher conscious.
Oh, no.
They're not even conscious. They're
Mm,
unconscious.
mm,
And we know that when we're reacting and we're not responding, and we know when we're in fear, and we know when we're angry and sad and all of that, that we're unconscious.
totally,
So
totally.
get conscious.
Great. I love that. And when does the book come out?
The book, I'm hoping that it will be completed. I'm so busy at the moment, so I'm just grabbing bits of time that I can finish writing it. But I believe that it should be out by October this year.
Fantastic. Great. So I'll get a link of the title from you. Have you got the title for it? Yep, you do.
I do. It's called
Okay, great.
Teen Edge: Tomorrow's Leaders Today.
Fabulous. And I'll
Yep.
put that into the description as well.
Thank you.
So thank you again. And I'd like to thank our audience as well for listening to us today. If you actually have any feedback from today or would like to find out a little bit more about Rik, his details are also going to be below in the description as well. And remember to think beautifully and live brilliantly. And we'll see you next time. Ciao.
Ciao.
We'd like to say a huge thank you to our incredible audience for your continued support. Our mission is to ignite your spark, empowering you to be a beacon of light for others. We'd love to hear from you. So if you've got any questions that you would like answered in future episodes or just want to share some insights, connect with us on our Facebook community page. If you're looking for additional resources, go to our website. You'll find the link below. And remember, the absolute best way to help us grow is to share this episode with your friends and family and to subscribe to the Art of Beautiful Thinking podcast. So until next time, think beautifully and live brilliantly.